A wake-up call for the industry. Revisit. We started this segment last year, and you all loved it because we showed you all the, the failed projects, the photos and everything, and we got so much positive feedback. So Stefan and I decided we will never do a standard keynote again. We will just, show you all the failures. But as you know, we could show a lot of photos. We see a lot of stuff, but it's not always fair. If you have 10,000 screens and one screen fails, I mean, that's life. That's something. But Stefan, who will join us in a few seconds, Dave and I, we sat down and said, what are things, in the past 12 months when we looked at project, when we talked to the industry, which really bothered us, right? And that's something we want to go through. And so the first thing is
black screens.
Black screens. Oh, stop fibbing.
Stop fibbing, yes.
That's yours.
Yeah, okay. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dave Haynes. I write something called 69. I've been doing that for about 18 years now. I get emails every day, hundreds of them, literally, from PR companies, marketers, and so on, telling me about their products, telling me about their projects, everything else, and it gets so frustrating because there's so much fibbing going on about what they're doing. The one that's bothering me the most lately is MicroLED. That's something that has been around for 3 or 4 years now. Different companies saying, here's our MicroLED display. The reality is almost none of those manufacturers is actually making MicroLED displays. They're Mini-LED or there's some other technology. And there's a good argument to be made that, like, who cares? And I'm kind of coming around to that. But then I also think this is a specs-driven industry. All these manufacturers give you a very long list of all their specifications. They talk about pixel pitch and everything else. But then they say it's something that it isn't actually. And I just find that frustrating. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
There's even one more you hate even more. I think it's holograms, right?
Oh, God. Yes.
This rotor LEDs, you hate that, right?
They have a point. Those little spinny wand things, I always worry about people walking up to them and losing a finger or the tip of their nose or something. But all these companies, and there was that little portal thing for one of the early sessions today that's also not a hologram. There's so many companies saying what they have are holograms. They're not. They're transparent LCDs, or they're spinning LED rotors with no depth to them. In order for it to be a hologram, and there are very, very, very few companies that actually have something that you could equate to a hologram or a light field display. So just say what it is, say what it does. You don't need to call it something that it isn't. And the other one is, there's a Chinese company, MuxWave, that doubles down on it. They call their product a hologram and they call it invisible, and it's neither. I actually think it's quite a good product, but just sell it on what it is and what it can do. That's enough.
Good. Stefan, I'm a little more relaxed with that. I know you hate that, but I think micro-LED, I mean, let's face it, it's below 1 millimeter or whatever pitch. And I know it's a different technology, I fully agree with you, but, just for the purpose of having some standards, and it just, people are having a hard time anyway to understand what LEDs and what's the difference between COB is and everything. So they need something which has some quality to it. So I understand where you're coming from. I totally support you. But I think, at the end of the day, if everyone uses it, maybe people, like digital signage, that's an awful term. I mean, it's really an awful term, and we still get everyday mailings. Oh, do you want to write about our digital signature? I said, no, it's digital signage. So it's not ideal, and it was called narrowcasting in the Netherlands for many years. I think they still use it today. So it's sometimes you have these terms which are not precise, and Stefan here, he's always, he's a physicist, so he knows everything about precision and data and everything, and holograms, but sometimes I think we can be a little bit more relaxed, but I understand where you're coming from.
I think it's a bit of an evolution as well. When I was walking around Integrated Systems Europe back in late January, early February, looking at all the LED displays out there, and in particular, I remember the one that Long, the German company, had, and it was actually i5 LEDs displayed. Amazing looking display. And it was chip on board, so not micro-LED technology. And at that point, I just kind of came to the conclusion, maybe the technical definition doesn't matter. Does it look good or not? And at some point, everybody's thinking that we're all waiting for micro-LED. That's going to be the moment when these huge video walls are going to look amazing. Fact is, they already look amazing. We don't need to wait for micro-LED to get to that point.
Yeah, I think Florian's making a marketing point of view, or he's taking a marketing point of view in this case, and you need to call it something. That's the issue. And there are also these nice terms, holograms and micro-LED, but they are not precise. That's the issue, and you should probably choose another term for that. But that's why you're relaxed. You're a marketing guy.
Yeah, the company that kind of innovated on the whole idea of transparent LCDs to create these, what they call holograms. It was Portal and became Proto. Yeah. I talked to the founder and needled him a little bit about it, and he was quite honest about it. He said, look, we know it's not really a hologram, but we need to call it something, and this is something that people can wrap their heads around. So when I write about it, I call it hologram-ish.
Good. You go ahead. Dave, more relevance, less specs. It's the same story, huh?
I went after somebody last week who sent me a press release, and I said, you know what, I've read this 4 or 5 times. I still don't understand it. You've loaded the thing up with all of your technical details. It's this pixel pitch, it does this, it does that. But what I really want to know, and what I encourage anybody who's a vendor, a manufacturer of some kind, is to push out marketing material that gives you an understanding of the relevance, to use a Canadian term. Why should I give a crap? It's so important, and it's so little done. I would say if I get 100 press releases, 90 of them start with name of company, a leading supplier of X, is proud to announce this and that, and then there's a quote from the CEO that says, we couldn't be more excited about this, and blah, 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 blah. And for people like me, who are in the business of trying to relate this to the readers and hopefully help them sell product, I need to understand what it does, what's different about it, and everything else. And I don't get that very often, and it's just so important.
I know. Our newsroom teams always cuts out all the quotes. Because usually you can forget about them. They're not adding any value to it. Just
I'm excited. I'm delighted.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just taking them out. But I understand, and it's frustrating. And sometimes, and if it's too complicated, we just throw it away. If we don't understand it, who else should understand it?
Yeah. What happens is a lot of smaller companies, in particular, are companies that were created by engineers. So they understand it, and they love their technology. They're so proud of it, so they want that front and center. But they will admit that they're horrible marketers. Some of them will then hire somebody to be their marketing director, and 9 out of 10 times it's going to be something who doesn't know a damn thing about the industry and doesn't even understand what the CEO or the CTO is saying to them. So they just kind of like parrot whatever's in the spec sheet or the cut sheet and turn that into a press release, which then has me going, what is this? So if you're going to do this, go to other people and say, can you read this for me and tell me what it means? Because in most cases, they're going to say, I have not a freaking clue.
Good. Coming to the next one. Retail media networks, Gold Rush.
Yeah, everybody's involved in retail media networks now.
Yeah, we just got a press release 2 hours ago from Chris Riegel that they are now launching PRN Europe, I think, if I read it right, and that they hired some people. Is that right?
I haven't had a chance to read it today.
I just flew over it. I think it was something like this. Yes, retail media is a big gold rush, and we all see that, and we mentioned it already, and we'll talk about tomorrow. $100 billion, $150 billion, whatever you say. Everyone just looks at Amazon, 40 billion. 95% of that is online, or mobile, so it's not much, but still a few billion in store, which is nice. So yeah, it's a hype and it's a boom, and it's really driving digital out-of-home, and it's making people nuts. But it's really relevant.
Yeah, it is, but I think what people need to understand is, while there's a big number attached to it, less than 1%, I think, I read one report, and it seemed like a credible piece of research. It was 0.6% of the dollars that are going into retail media networks are actually going into in-store media, like screens in stores.
In-store media networks, that's what they call them, right? Retail media networks, that's where they make the differentiation.
Yeah.
That's the in-store networks, yeah.
Yeah, but all of the money is really going to online and mobile for search. That's like the millions and billions of dollars are going there. So yes, there's a good opportunity in retail media for in-store screens, but if you think this is this giant number that's, it's going to make your business and allow you to exit and do all those things, it's going to take a while, and because everybody else is in it, it's going to be hard to get a sliver of that pie.
Yeah. I mean, we will talk a lot about it tomorrow and give you some insights, and there are certain reasons why even $1 billion is nice to have.
Yeah.
Good. We need to do better.
That's something we see when we see installations out there. We so often get frustrated with the quality, with the mindset that we see behind those installations that we see out there. And it's like we know the reasons why you're all using cables, why you're still using RS-232 cables, why you are not installing security updates on your players. There's good reasons for all of this. But there are better solutions out there already. Use them. Please, there's no reason anymore to display black content on displays. And don't even think about doing it on LCD displays, because they are not consuming less energy when you're displaying black content. The LED, typical LED isn't turned down or turned off at night. It's running, and even if it's black, it's still using a lot of energy. So there is this risk aversity. We all know. You're all afraid of the calls you're getting when you're turning off a screen and trying to turn it on in the morning and it doesn't come up. But there are good tools out there to avoid these issues, and please use these tools instead of keep the players running. And you certainly have more examples like that.
Oh yeah, and it's when you're looking at a software platform, it's important to look at the user experience and see if it aligns with what your needs are and how you approach networks. But the first question you should be asking these software providers is, let me see your remote device management. Let me see how this works and what I can do to remedy a problem so that I don't have to roll a truck. Because if you have to roll a truck, that's $400 that you're not getting back.
Next one.
Kind of aligns with this one. It's like the fear of applying new technologies. It's like there's so much great technology out there. Start using it. It's why are you not using more AI? Why are you not embracing remote device management tools that are out there? There is so much good tech out there, and development is going so fast. Cloud services that are offered. You don't need to do everything yourself in software. You don't need to write all that code that's written already for you on roles management or user management. There are existing solutions by AWS and by Microsoft and companies like this. So that's something we sometimes don't understand, why this industry is kind of slow in adapting new technologies.
I won't say the name of the company, but well, no, it's actually a good thing. This is a company that only started in like 2014, something like that. And I know the CEO, and he called me about 3 or 4 years into his operations and said, just want to kind of walk this by you. I'm tearing up the platform that we wrote, and we're starting over. And I said, why are you doing that? And he said, well, we want to use the most modern tools. We want to stay current. We can see where things are going, and we want to be ahead of it as opposed to reactive. And that company has done that twice now. They've completely re-architected their platform twice to stay current. That's the only company that I know of that does that. There's some other ones that are, quite modern, and they stay on top of things and use the tool sets that are available, but there's so many of them that are just, on version 7.2.1.b. It's just like on and on and on, and some of them are working off a platform, it's not really a platform, it's software stack that started in the 90s.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It still works. That's the reason. Somehow it still works.
Beat it with a hammer and it'll work.
So the next one is silos everywhere. It's the silo industry, right? What kind of silos do we see?
I'll let you take that one, Florian.
Oh, we see tech silos, we take mindset silos. It's so frustrating. I did a presentation in front of end users last week in UK, and there were like 30 or 50, 50 I think more, universities and big corporations, and they were exactly reflecting what their integrators told them for the past 20 years, Oh, we cannot connect it, and we prefer our silos, and we don't have to update it and everything. It's just unbelievable. In the year 2024, universities in UK, big corporations are still thinking in silos, and this is just unacceptable, I think.
One encouraging thing, though, in the early days of digital signage, I would have, when I was on the vendor side, I would have marketers come to me and say, we would like to put something in stores for 6 weeks. And I'd say, okay, great, we can do that. And these are the displays you use, this is the software and so on. And they'd say, yeah, can we rent it? Because we only want it for those 6 weeks. And I would say, you're a big-ass consumer packaged goods brand, and with all kinds of different products. Why don't you share this around to all of them? And they said, we are so siloed, we don't even talk to those people. And I had a conversation recently where this company was saying, yeah, that's broken down. We're actually doing that, where we're taking technology, and this company's, particularly for in-store retail media, using it for those 6 or 8 weeks, and then it's going to be used by a beauty product that's in the same company. So it's that, at least that silo is broken down, which I think is intriguing.
And I'm just coming off of a panel talking about standards in digital signage software, and that it became so apparent. It's like there's the hardware silo, and even between the different hardware manufacturers, all operating on their own or creating their own operating systems or branches of operating systems. Then you go from there, you go to the software CMS silos, you go to the RDM, so remote device management silos. Those guys are not talking to the content guys within the same integrated company. So we're still thinking a lot in separate entities and even within companies in different tasks and different things to do, ways to do things. So it really goes all the way across, and where it hurts a lot is the whole thing of sustainability, because there things need to play together. So if a hardware manufacturer offers something, a software company has to support that feature in their software, and the integrator and the customer have to actually use it. I'm turning off the screen again.
Yeah, earlier today you talked a little bit about solutions and how important that is. And it's something I say to a lot of companies on the software side is, guys, you need to start to develop a solution stack. You can't just be the software part of this thing, because the larger companies in particular don't want to buy your thing and have a separate login to do your stuff. It's got to be part of a larger picture, and you get out of that silo.
Yeah, that's again silo, and it's not only within the industry. It's also this industry has created high walls. It's online offline integration. How hard is it to run the same campaign on a mobile device and on a digital signage screen? It's incredibly hard still. And does it really have to be that way?
Hence the idea of platforms, right?
Yep. So, no love for green signage, Florian, that's yours.
Yeah, it's my topic, you know that. I told you already this morning, it was so frustrating at IEC. Like last year, everyone was showcasing their green signage products, lower energy consumption and recycled materials. And this year, there was almost nothing there. People were hiding it. Last year was on Vogue, everyone was proud of it. And this year, many people said, oh, we're developing something, but we have nothing to show. And I think it's not acceptable. We have to, it's here to stay. And especially in Europe, very different to North America, by the way. But even at Infocom, and even now, as I said, I returned from Infocom China. Even there, you saw, the first product with the green label on it or so. So there's rising awareness around the world, but we need to lead it. We here in Europe need to lead the market, because if we don't do it, nobody else does it, and that's really important.
Wait till you go to Infocom in Las Vegas. You'll walk around, you won't see a mention of it.
Yeah, this year Infocom will be anyway very difficult because it's 2 separate halls, very far away. It will be disaster, but it's a different story. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I primarily write about the North American market, and that's the people who are coming to me with news and advice and everything else. And I never hear anybody talking about that. The only time that I'll get a discussion around green signage will be in the area of energy costs. And that starts to raise some eyebrows. They're not concerned about saving the planet or anything else, but they're starting to understand that, yeah, their energy bill's kind of high. So if we did this thing and if we were able to bring it down by 30% or something, then they're interested.
It's relevant, yeah.
But that's it.
Good. We have to look at the time. Next one. Where are the innovations?
Yeah, and we're not saying that this industry is not innovating, but it's a lot of pull innovation. So you're listening to your customers, and that's a good thing. But you're probably not listening close enough. Because what we see is that it's a lot of evolution, it's a lot of things being developed in customer projects, so developed for customers because they are used. But in other industries where they are more product-driven, there are really companies trying to push the limits. And we see too little of this. We see too little really taking a step back from all your customer projects, cutting across what you're hearing, is like really listening to what's being said, not the words that are being said, but what's underlying this need. And then start to develop towards that need and not just on developing, okay, the customer asked for feature X, Y, Z, and we're going to do that now, and we're going to do that prettier and a bit better, but really listen to the fundamental needs of that the companies are voicing. It's like we don't want to go through the hassle of online and digital signage and all of these things. But is there really, and do we see real innovation there from the industry? And that's something we struggle with. We'd like to see more kind of like okay, we thought about this and we took a totally different approach to it, and that's how we would solve it.
To be fair, I mean, we're putting stuff on screens in an order and targeting them to specific screens and all that. I mean, there's a limit to how much innovation you can do on that. And I have a lot of time for companies that are kind of always looking around the corner at what they can bolt on, what's emerging in other industries that they could apply to it. I think that's good, but
still,
how do you revamp the whole way this is done?
There are some things that are generally accepted across the industry, and one of them is we all accept that we're using the operating system that sits on a screen that comes from a manufacturer. Why doesn't anyone question that? Why don't you say, okay, we throw away...
I can give you a name of somebody who questions it every day.
Yeah, I know that example.
He's in Dayton, Ohio.
I know somebody in Switzerland who does the same thing. It's raising these kinds of questions, because if it's so hard to run mixed fleets of hardware, can I take control? And it's companies like Signage US are looking at this problem and say, okay, then if nobody else solves it, we go ahead and solve it. And it's this kind of innovation that I'm thinking of.
Fair enough.
Last but not least, disruption risk. I mean, it's basically summing up many of this. Be careful. There are companies taking new approaches. There are companies you don't have on your radar who are not here in this room today, most probably. But they are looking at this and say, it's okay, we're putting up pictures on displays. What's so hard about it? And there must be a clever way how we can do it. So it's really, if we don't move as an industry, if we don't innovate, if we don't do our homework in terms of all the topics that we discussed around green signage, about doing better, breaking up those silos, somebody might be coming in and saying, well, nice little industry. We do things differently.
Yeah, I often say that it's very difficult for a company, software company that, let's say, does digital signage in the QSR market. It would be extremely difficult for them to write a point-of-sale system, like a credible one, and compete with NCR and all those kinds of companies. But for the NCRs and all those kinds of companies to write a rudimentary digital signage platform that puts a digital menu board display up, pretty darn easy for them. And we can all sit here and say, yeah, but it's garbage, or it really doesn't do very much. Customer doesn't know that, probably doesn't care. If it's part of the overall software suite, they'll take it, even if they just take it for 3 years and realize, oh, that was a bad mistake. But by that time, the company who had that deal before might be gone.
Yeah, and it's probably the one thing that saved this industry from big disruption so far. It's still too small. Because I mean, big companies looking at it, it's like, well, yes, it's a couple of billion, nice little industry, but for us really to bother, I mean, go and ask Adobe, go and ask Google, looking at this industry, whether they think it's a big enough industry to bother.
I think the Google thing is interesting because when Google first got into this in like 2013, 2014, something like that.
It was a disaster, by the way.
Yeah, they had Sign Builder, which is extremely rudimentary playout application. And they had the wrong attitude and everything else, and they backed out of it. But now they're back into it, and they're very, very credible, and they've found their lane.
But the industry isn't too small. You just have to look at all the great reports we love from India, right? We forgot to put this on our chart. We love it, And there seems to be, you sell more research, if the numbers are higher, right? I mean that it is, and every time, and you get it, we get it every week. We get like some Indian research institute says, oh, the digital signage market is 50 billion, it's 100 billion, whatever. And then people ask us, should I buy this research? Oh, please not.
My favorite thing with the Indian research factories is I will drill down and I will find their address of their office, and then I'll go on Google Street Maps and then get the street view. It's absolutely hysterical. Some of these places, it's like a shack on a road or whatever, or if they have a U.S. office, it's in like a strip mall or something like that. If you see a report from India, if you see a report from some company you've never heard of, consider it to be garbage. They produce reports on everything, on condoms, on silicone sealants and everything else, one after another, and they purport to be experts in digital signage. They're not.
Yeah, I mean, there's Avixa Yota study, which is really, solid. There's Future Source, there's a few others, but it's really a handful of market research we trust. And even that research, they try their best, but even that you always, have to be cautious with certain things, especially as long as China's included, because Chinese market numbers are always impossible to believe.
Yeah, and that just on that point, it's really important for companies in this industry to have some trust. And when you guys try to do
our yearbook,
well, not
in half an hour, you get the yearbook with
go.
all the new numbers.
But you have you put out that business climate index,
yes,
and ask companies for how are you doing and everything else, and it's like pulling teeth, right?
It is, and it's a challenge, and we would love all of you to participate more because it's very challenging to get that. But we need that, and it's good for you. It gives you once a quarter, gives you some feedback of how the market is developing, and that's really important because we all know Q1, Q4 are the best quarters, and then we look at our books, I'm not sure. Good, Dave, thanks a lot.
Thank you.